Don Hale is an investigative reporter who was given some Home Office documents by the former Labour Cabinet Minister, Barbara Castle, and Mr Hale's on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Just tell us about that and how that fits into what Geoffrey Dickens was alleging.
Well, I think it fits in very well. Barbara Castle she came to see me over a period of time and gave me a dossier of her own documents, which I think was an inquiry looking into the Geoffrey Dickens inquiry. So I think her documents were technically more important than even Geoffrey Dickens' papers.
Why did she give them to you?
Well, I was the editor of the local paper. I'd known her for probably about 6 years. I'd interviewed her before. I used to work with the BBC. I'd interviewed her before. And we were quite sort of chummy, really. So she came to me with this sort of extraordinary story and said, I don't suppose you'd be interested, but... And she started to feed me a number of documents over several weeks.
And these were documents with names?
Oh, yes, they contained names. There was a list of 16 MPs and peers that were allegedly involved with the promoting the Pi network. There's a whole range of other documents that were there, and it was really minutes of meetings and a whole range of things that had been instigated, potentially by, say, Liam Britton, into looking into the Dickens dossier.
Right, and what happened next?
Well, it was a strange turn of events because I had the documents were given to me. I was going to run a story on this based on Barbara's quest to find the truth about this matter. And so I made inquiries. There were names given to me in the documents. I first of all contacted the Home Office, asked them about it, and I got a very harsh response. They didn't want to answer any questions and really tried to turn it back on myself to say, where have you got these documents from? Who's given you this and what have you? Very difficult to try and deal with them. Then I contacted several senior MPs and peers that had been named in the documents and again got a similar response. Eventually I was just told by a senior Liberal that somebody would come and talk to me, and eventually Cyril Smith came down. He appeared the next morning. Again, I knew Cyril Smith. I had interviewed him before and always got on with him very well. But suddenly he turned from Mr. Nice Guy into Mr. Nasty, and he was banging his fist on the table. He was pointing fingers at me, very, very threatening, and demanding that I hand over all the documents to him immediately.
And you eventually did hand them back to what, to the special branch?
Well, I said to Cyril Smith that there's no way I was going to give it to him. I was still researching this and I was still prepared to run a story if I thought it was necessary. He stormed out of the office, and the very next day I had a team from a special branch and the police turned up on the doorstep, pushed me against the wall basically, threatened me with all sorts of things, asked me if I was prepared to hand over my documents. And if I wasn't, I'd be arrested on the spot and could face up to 2 years in jail.
So the question now is what happened to those documents that you handed back, and whether this report is going to throw any light on it?
Well, I don't think this particular Wanless report will be involved with that. I think the brief was too narrow. I think it's just been purely looking into what happened with the Geoffrey Dickens dossier and looking at the Home Office. But I've been contacted by a great many MPs, a lot of people who are ex-special branch or flying squad or whatever, and they are telling me that this has been a complete waste of time, that they weren't looking in the right places. This Geoffrey Dickens dossier does exist, but maybe not in its entire format. It's probably been fragmented by now.
And just to make it clear, Mr Wanless, who's conducted this most recent investigation, has not spoken to you or tried to speak to you?
No, and MPs find that quite amazing. I've offered to speak to him or to his team, and they just say it's not part of this inquiry.
OK.
I find it quite strange.
Don Hale, thanks very much for talking to us.